King Kong, Lawful, greetings. Benji Comics, Lawful, greetings. Welcome. It's that time of evening again. We're gonna get started shortly. Let me get something to drink. I'll be right back. All right. Sabek, Lawful, greetings. Welcome. All right. It is that time of night again. We're about to get started. Need to take care of that. So, I hope everyone is doing well. We're about to get started. Let's see, I think we should have... Okay, good. We do. Yeah. So, this evening, we're going to talk about some more constitutional details. And we're going to talk about some rights today. We're going to talk about some rights. Lawful, greetings, welcome. All right, so today we're going to take a look at a few things. So we're going to begin at the top and we're going to march our way down. Right, so last time we were here, we talked about the Declaration of Independence. We also talk about completing the table of contents, which we actually completed. Let us take a look. So again, if you downloaded the old or the previous draft of the Constitution, this is the updated version. So now all of the manuals are actually linked within the PDF, so you don't have to scroll through over 2,000 pages. Now, let us disable notifications there. So now we can simply click on one of the links and it will take us to that section of the document that we would like to review. Right? So this completes the draft, and this is, I guess you can call it the final draft. Now, of course, if we have suggestions, Justin, lawful greetings, welcome. If we have further suggestions on making any changes to what we now have as a completed draft, we can certainly look to make those changes prior to upcoming publication. Excuse me. So again, this is the polished draft. On the left side you have the title, and on the right side you have the page number. Right, so if we click on any section, it will take us to that section of the document. Right, now what we want to go over today is the protection of rights and freedoms. Right, this is the fourth section of the document. Right, and it is very important excuse me, it is very important that we comprehend and we have a full idea of what exactly we're trying to accomplish here with something like this. If we are going to become a free nation, if we're going to become a people who are going to be what we call proud, right? We have to have some protection in place for all of the things that we would enjoy as a citizen, right? As a native, as one of the people who come together and institute something for the good of everyone. So this section would cover the protections of the rights and freedoms that we would want to enjoy. Damien, lawful greetings, welcome. So this is where we would list the rights that are recognized by our Constitution, right? So let us take a look and see if it is something that is truly beneficial to everybody. Because this is the other thing, right? The Constitution is primarily created to benefit the people as a whole, not a specific class or subgroup of society. It is supposed to be equal for everybody, right? So it starts out by saying, except where criminal activity exists by evidence, all native local tribes, peoples, groups, and citizens are guaranteed and absolute under the authority of this Constitution these protections. So if you notice how it starts out, except where criminal activity exists by evidence, right? So the only thing, let us zoom in a little bit. The only thing that can cause a right or a protection from being activated and enforced, the only thing that can stop it is criminal activity. That's it. And not only someone claiming that it is criminal activity, it has to be by evidence, right? Except where criminal activity exists by evidence. These are the rights and protections we have. So once we have criminal activity, of course, we have to modify those rights. Those rights are now subject to any penalty that come from criminal action, right? So while we want to have rights, we cannot have rights where criminal activity is rampant, right? So the first right we have is the right to life and security, right? Every person has the right to live in safety and dignity. No person may be deprived of life or liberty except through lawful judgment after a fair trial by an impartial tribunal of 3 judges from different territories or a jury of 9 people from different territories, unrelated to any party. One DJ Lex, lawful, greetings. Right, so the right to life and security, again, can only be deprived through lawful judgment, right? We can't have a society where we have someone losing their life because of the decision of one person on a street. It has to be through a lawful process where someone get to present evidence and go through discovery and see what is against them and face their accuser as well, right? That is what is supposed to happen now, but we don't have any enforcement mechanism as a people. We are at the mercy of the courts and the police, and also the attorneys. So, under a constitution like this, that would certainly change, right? Number 2, freedom of thought and belief. Every person may hold and express their beliefs, religious or otherwise, without interference, right? And that goes without saying. If somebody wants to practice their religion, as long as they are not disturbing other people, you practice what you want. If you want to practice Obia, if you want to practice XYZ, it should not matter to anyone as long as you are not harming or interfering with anyone else, right? Now again, let me turn on the camera and make my disclaimer, because I want to make sure I say this is on every recording. I am not a lawyer, I am not an attorney, I am not providing legal advice. Anything I say is my own opinions. If you learn something, good for you. I don't offer consultations and I don't offer any services for hire. What we are doing here is not an attempt to overthrow the government. We are not trying to combat the government, and we are not trying to interfere with anything the government is doing. Okay? So just want to get that out of the way. So, nameless individual says, all of you do amount to nothing as long as you believe in the system. Wanna get F. Well, we always have the ignorant ones that come to the channel. I hope you stay long enough to learn something so that you can have a better perspective on life. All right? All right, number 3. Freedom of speech and expression. Every person has the right to speak, write, publish, and share ideas without censorship, subject only to the laws protecting the safety and rights of others. So again, as long as you are not interfering with the law, you're not interfering with the rights of people, you're not interfering with the free movement of society or people going about their private business, you can speak, you can write, you can publish, you can do whatever you please, right? freedom of assembly. People may gather peacefully to discuss matters of public interest or group interest and to petition their government. All people, individually or as a group or organization, may exercise the right to freedom of peaceful assembly. Now, in our current system of government, right, depending on what you are gathering to do, you may be restricted. And that is absolutely a violation of your right to assembly and also your right of expression, right? And unfortunately, our rights are now, as you can call them, second-class rights. So, if the police say, you can't get a right so, or you have to pack up your things and leave, or you have to turn off the music at this specific time, the only way you can challenge that is by going to court. That is the only way. The system does not respect or recognize any rights as long as they feel that it is within their power to tell you to stop doing something or to do something. They are going to continue doing it. So under this new constitution, this right is specifically spelled out. If you notice, these rights are individual. We don't bundle anything together. So it is explained and it is expressed individually. So you don't have any confusion about what exactly a right is and what you can and cannot do. Right? Everything is individually laid out. Freedom from arbitrary arrest. No person may be detained or arrested without constitutional authority, supported by objective evidence, supported by evidence sufficient to prove harm, crime, damage, loss of life, or loss of right. Now, this is the core of constitutional authority. When we talk about public servants, when we talk about public officials, etc. The only time one can be arrested or detained is with supporting objective evidence. So, even though an evidence or an object might be somewhere, it has to be linked to something proving a crime, harm, damage, loss of life, or loss of right. Exactly, no more victimless crimes. It doesn't make any sense for someone to be locked up just for being in possession of something, right? Unless it is specifically outlined in law by the people. Fair trial. Every person accused of a crime has the right to face the accuser in court, know the accusation immediately. Now, this is also very important. There are so many times people get locked up and you are not charged. People are put in holding cells and put in places and they don't know why they are there. If they ask a question, they are further abused. Or sometimes they are just ignored. So under this system, if law enforcement do not provide the lawful reason for interfering with your right to move about freely without interference, then that law enforcement official would be facing consequences. Okay? Because it is clearly stated here what an accused has the right for. So you have the right to know the accusation immediately. You have the right to present evidence, the right to question witnesses, the right to defend themselves personally or with assistance, the right to be judged by an impartial court authorized under this Constitution, a fair hearing, a hearing free from conflict of interest, and freedom from prosecution where witness perjury is uncovered. Now, this is key, okay? Many times we have witnesses coming in and telling lies, and the lies are uncovered, but yet still the prosecution continues. It is absolutely ridiculous. How can we have someone caught in a lie, but yet still their credibility is still partially important. It's almost like them want to say, just cut off the bad part, man. No worry about the little bad part. We are going to continue the same way because this is the only witness we have. Excuse me. You know, these things, this is why, you know, many times, I might have not even say many times, I can't remember ever seeing on television or on any media live court hearings in Jamaica. But in America, you see it all the time. In India, you see it all the time. In Canada, the court hearings are recorded, right? Much of them. But in Jamaica, the people are blocked from seeing what happens in the courtroom. If you don't go in there yourself, you get knocked. You're not going to see it. You're not going to experience nothing. Or you will hear the narrative from a news report or from a newspaper clipping or a social media post. You don't see anything live happening in court. Right? So you won't even get to see whenever a witness is perjured, whenever them a tell lie and then get catch. You're not going to hear what happened when time certain evidence get admitted, even though it is unverified or even though it contradicts, you know, the law itself. We don't get to see any of that. So under this constitutional framework, we would have the freedom from prosecution where witness perjury is uncovered. So if a witness is caught telling lie, not only would the case be unable to continue if that is the only witness, but that witness would also face criminal penalties. In our current system of law, if the attorney is not savvy enough, or if the attorney, the defense attorney, does not call it to the attention of the court, the witness just walk out free, even though perjury is on the record. The same thing with the police. If you have a case against you and the police shows up and you cross-examine the police and he's telling a lie, you have to demand that the court sanction the police for lying on the stand. The court is not going to act on its own behalf in 99% of the cases. Right? So, the current system will allow perjury. In the new system, we would not allow perjury. We would not allow a lying individual to be able to incriminate anyone. Options, lawful, greetings, welcome. Due process. Every person accused of a crime has the right to due process of law. That is to say, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, property, family association, movement, labor, or any protected interest except after being so afforded due process of law and found guilty or liable thereafter. Right? So this is number one. The same thing that is outlined up here, where you have the right to life and security and all that. It is also outlined under due process as well. Right? 2. Due process shall include lawful service of process, a clear statement of the claim or accusation, access to evidence. Now, when we get down to the public peace service, which would be the police, whenever there is so-called evidence, it is put into the National Records Database. Right? So, at no point should anyone under this system not have access to that data. You don't have to be asking anyone for anything. Much of the discovery would be anything third party that was not a part of the original investigation, right? Like if you want to prove something other than the main subject matter of the case. So access to evidence would be access to the National Records Database, where as soon as someone is apprehended, a report has to be made on the spot. then can't go into them office, go talk to other people and cook up whatever. It would have to be immediate. So if evidence is not there, a matter of fact, if someone gets apprehended, they would have to face a judge immediately. Either you get brought down to the courthouse or you have a remote session, right? So the judge would determine whether or not you are being held or you are released until your court date, etc. I got a ticket for speeding, but the speed gun was never shown to me. They don't have to show you that in the current system. D, disclosure of all material information. So this is still your due process rights under this system. Reasonable time and opportunity to prepare and respond. Public and recorded proceedings before an impartial and lawfully constituted tribunal. G, the right to present evidence and question opposing evidence. The right to counsel or chosen assistance. So you don't have to get an attorney to represent you. It can be anyone who you feel competent, and able to assist beneficially. The presumption of innocence in criminal matters. Protection against arbitrary detention, punishment, search, seizure, or deprivation. A speedy trial within 15 days if jailed, or 30 days if on bail. Judgment based solely on written law, evidence, and proven facts. Now, this is important, where we have a specific time frame upon which the prosecution must determine their case and deliberate before the court, right? If you are going to be jailed or held, right? If you're going to be held for an accusation of a crime, you now have the option to demand a speedy trial, right? Because there is absolutely no reason for someone to sit in jail based on an accusation. If one is to be sentenced or one is to be tried or one is to, whatever the case may be regarding court, we must have a specific time frame where it can be resolved quickly, right? If we assert that right, and we know, let's say someone is accused and they know that they're innocent, we should not have to be waiting months for anyone to prepare for anything. The state should already have their evidence and ready to proceed, right? You can't accuse somebody and then you hunt for evidence. Doesn't make any sense. So if someone is held in a jail, they would have a minimum of 15 days, right? Or if some extenuating circumstances is there, it might be extended a little bit. Or 30 days if they are out on bail, right? So within a month, they would have to convene that case and get it over with. Written findings stating the law applied, the evidence, and the facts established, right? We cannot have court cases in front of the court and we don't have access to any records of what happened. This is why when we get down further into the court proceedings, all court proceedings are recorded under a system like this. And when I talk about somebody I write down things, audio recording and video recording, in addition to it being written down. So if there is a discrepancy, it will be detected, right? Denise, lawful, greetings, welcome. The right to review or appeal decisions, right? So we should not be going down to the court asking, oh, can I get a copy of the proceeding? Can I get a copy of this? Can I get a copy of that? It should be readily available online, right? All of these things are within our reach. This is not far-fetched. This already happens in many jurisdictions. And the technology is not out of reach. So all of these things is just a matter of implementation. And immediate remedy where constitutional violations are proven, right? So if we have a case where there is a charge brought against an individual, and that individual is not convicted, and it is shown that there was a constitutional violation against the individual, then immediate remedy is required, right? Because now you would have been injured from the time of the arrest all the way up to getting to court. So that would have to be remedied. 3, secret evidence, secret proceedings, undisclosed authority, retroactive punishment, compelled or coerced self-incrimination, double jeopardy, collective punishment, and excessive or disproportionate penalties are prohibited and void. I know that was a mouthful, but this is a protection from random and arbitrary use of authority, right? Everything has to be documented and recorded. If it is not documented and recorded, it is prohibited and void. 7, public courts. All courts shall operate openly and maintain full records of proceedings, including audio, video, written transcription, written rulings, and evidence. All right? This has to be stated. And in our current constitution, there is a provision in there that allows the court to restrict the court proceedings, but there are extenuating circumstances that allow that. But what has happened is it has become common practice for the court to just lock out everybody. So under this constitution, there are no exceptions. The only exception is the protection of privacy of an individual, where the names would be, obfuscated for privacy. Where is it? The audio is breaking up? Not again. Anybody else having an audio problem? Drop a 2 in the chat if you have an audio problem. All right. Let's see if all right, how am I sound right now? Any better? Let me know if this sound any better on the audio side. Okay, cool. All right, if it start up again, let me know so that we can switch back the connection. So in our current system, our court system is largely restricted and policed. This restriction violates our right to open courts. And one of the problems with a closed court system that is policed and highly restrictive is that the public will never know the law. The public will never know what is allowed in the court. The public will never know what a ruling is. A public will never know a lot of things. You won't know what the process and procedure is. Because what? There is no guidebook. There is no specific process and procedure to follow. So when we have a system where the law, those that or the institutions that deal with interpretation and execution of the law, or you can say adjudication of the law, not really execution, right? Adjudication of the law, and it is largely a secret process where the public have no idea what should happen from step 1 all the way to the end. Then we don't have a public court system. It now appears to be a private system with limited and restricted access to the public. So under this constitutional framework, we would have an open court system. The only restriction we would have in such a system would be for the protection of privacy, for like minors or celebrities or whatever the case may be. And that will only be for personal information like your name, etc., etc. Mr. Dunn, Lawful, greetings. Welcome. So, for the protection of privacy, and we're going over the different rights that we have enumerated in the new Constitution. The private lives, homes, communications, and personal records of individuals shall not be interfered with except under lawful authority. Cases necessary for national security or criminal investigation of crime, organs of the state shall examine correspondence in accordance with procedures prescribed by law. No organization or individual shall infringe on a citizen's freedom and confidentiality of correspondence for any reason. Searches conducted absent a crime or criminal investigation is prohibited. Right? So this is a provision, to protect the basic concept of personal privacy. We cannot have law enforcement just running into a home talking about they will get the warrant later. It is unacceptable. Right? We cannot have snooping on the phones. We cannot have snooping on the computers. Regardless of the intent, we cannot have these things happening to us without repercussions. If it is not related to a crime, you cannot go looking for a crime. You have to already have information related to a crime to conduct those kind of actions. Property rights. People have the right to own property and use it peacefully. Property may not be taken except for documented and demonstrated public necessity and fair compensation. So, if for whatever reason the government people decides that a certain piece of land is needed for some public reason, then it has to be demonstrated, documented, and also fair compensation has to be given for that land if the individual must move. 10. Protection from cruel and arbitrary punishment. Punishment must be lawful, proportionate, and publicly known. No punishment may be imposed except under law written and enacted before the alleged crime. All judges imposing punishment shall be named in full and sign every order by hand. A trial by jury shall be individually named in judgment and shall require the signatures of all matching their individual judgment vote. Right? In today's day and age, we have in many different jurisdictions, this e-signing of orders, this e-signing of different documents and things like that, right? And that is fine. However, we have to get away from this alias business where people are using aliases in public office. They might use shortened names. They might use shortened abbreviations. They are using all manner of things that are not their legal, lawful name. And that is absolutely ridiculous. If you are in public office, why are you hiding your identity? It doesn't make any sense. Apothecary, Lawful, greetings. Tugs Brian, Lawful, greetings. Welcome, welcome. Right? We cannot have judgment being handed down by anonymous individuals or people with alias names. Under no system of law that would be okay. It's just like, the police officers walking around. Oh, my name is Brian. I'm from this police station, blah, blah, blah. No, your name is not Brian. Your name has to be the full legal name where you get your documents in, where your mail come in, where you sign up with things. You have to provide your full legal name. Nobody now hire you as Brian or Jones or John. You have to use your full name. Right? So we have to get rid of all of this foolishness. Exactly, the police, them where stop people with them face cover up. I can't even get into that right now, but you get the point. It is ridiculous. It is not lawful. 11. Right to education. All children shall receive mandatory state-sponsored education necessary to understand the laws, history, language, and responsibilities of society, up to at least the level of high school education. Right? So, the government is supposed to be providing essential education related to these things, at least up to high school. And there are other provisions within the Constitution that go beyond this. But this is the basic right being recognized. Right to representation. Any person may represent themselves or choose another person to assist in their legal defense. No person shall be forced to hire a legal professional. Right to record government. Citizens may document and record by any means public officials and public servants performing public duties. This right does not permit recording of confidential information in connection with public duties. So, for example, if you have somebody working at a desk, you can record them doing their work, but you can't turn your phone upon the information that they're working on, right? You can't go record them in the bathroom and things like that. It has to just be, in a normal public space, right? Right to participation. Citizens have the right to vote on matters of territory and national importance as provided for in this Constitution. Right? So, as we discussed before, whenever we have any kind of important matter, whether it be what we call now a parish, would be renamed to a territory, right? So, if we have important matters in a territory or at a national level that needs decision making, it would be the right of the citizen to vote on such matters. Pretty much yes or no. 15. Right to procession and demonstration. The right of procession and demonstration guarantees the freedom of individuals or groups to march, rally, and express views peacefully in traditional public forums such as streets, sidewalks, and parks. Right? So again, the right of assembly being specifically given detail here, allowing people to peacefully march and do whatever they want to do to raise awareness of any issues or anything that they want to do, right? Is this it? NTC. I disapprove on 16. Let us move on to 16. 16. Right to arms, including guns and defensive weapons. The people have the right to acquire, use, hold, transfer, and store in any way deeming fit any defensive weapon for one's own protection or protection of one's home and property. Innovation and creation of new items used as defensive weapons shall encompass this definition and shall not be converted in definition to mean an offensive weapon. This basic tenet of life shall be forever inviolable and never be the basis nor justification for presumption of intent to commit a crime nor basis for criminal charge without sufficient evidence to prove criminal elements. So, I am interested to know what about this right you don't like or you disapprove of. Right? Let us hear, or you can type what you feel is the problem and why you feel so. And you can also come up, you can click in the box. If you feel that Jamaica or we the people don't deserve such a right. Jamaican lack self-control. If you want to come up and express yourself, you can tap in the box and you can come up and explain yourself. But you can stay in the comments as well. No pressure. You say Jamaican lack self-control. How many Jamaicans do you know? Or are you speaking from what you see on television? How do you make that determination for the entire nation? Shad say, which act is this? So for those who are new, those who are wondering, what are we reading from and what is this? This is a new constitution that was developed by the suggestions of we the people. All right, so I'm gonna bring up Marky, if he's still there. All right, look like he's gone. All right, Father Skling, you're up. Father Skling, lawful, greetings. Are you there? All right, Father Skling already. Should say Constitution 2026. This is a constitution drafted by the people for the people. This has nothing to do with Parliament or anything to do with the current government structure. Right? You see? Why it name? Me not find it. All right, so for those for those who would like to see how you access this constitution, you go to voiceofjamaica.com. That's voiceofjamaica.com, right? And you scroll down a little bit and you see this image here that says new constitution. You click on that. And then you scroll down a little bit and here you have the constitutional draft PDF edition. And that is what we're looking at here. Okay? So that is how you get to this document. Over the past 6 months, this is what we have been drafting over here. Okay? Again, you might see things that you're unfamiliar with because you haven't been coming to the lives. So as you go through and you read the first few sections, you will start becoming familiar with what exactly it is that we are going through. All right, let's see. We all should have the right to defend ourselves and family. We can't always wait for help. Exactly. Applicants and those who are qualified must display some level of self-control. That is true. And again, this is only the right. There are also requirements when it comes down to acquiring, any kind of weapons and so forth. So this is only detailing the right. It is not detailing the process required to acquire, a firearm or any kind of defensive weapon. Later on in the document, it is described. ITNTC says, from what I am seeing, most Jamaican quick to jump to violence with emotions involved. Now, ITNTZ, you cannot say most because what you see is less than 1% of people in Jamaica. If Jamaica has 3 million people and you hear about an incident or you hear about several incidents, you are literally hearing about less than 1% of the people at any given time. So you have to be careful when you say most people, because many of us don't even know 1,000 people. So you can never say most people. You don't know most people, right? And additionally, when we talk about things like self-defense and defensive weapons, again, in the exact title itself, it specifically states defensive weapons. And the law is set up in such a way that, just like right now, if someone uses a weapon offensively without, there are consequences, right? We can't stop people from doing anything. Law never stop anyone from owning that does is law for repercussions of that actions or activities law. All right. How the audio sound here now? Does it sound any better? So when we talk about defensive weapons and protecting ourselves and protecting our property, this has to be paramount when we talk about a right. How can we protect our property and our homes if we are unarmed? If law enforcement is armed and the general people are unarmed, how do we defend ourselves against unlawful actions by unscrupulous law enforcement? What about gunmen, people who just want your things and they run in upon you, right? How do you defend and protect yourself, right? What if, you have a wild animal running at your place, one cow running at your house and I try to butt down everybody, right? You don't have no way of defending your home or your property or whatever. You have to think about these situations. You can't just think about people who might be facing some kind of stress or in some kind of situation and all of a sudden they decide that they're going to use their gun. The the funny fact about that is this: if everybody or if most homes had a weapon in there and people know that most people have their weapon in their house, many people won't even think about attacking another person, because the fact that someone has a similar or more dangerous weapon than what you have is sometimes the best deterrent for crime and the best deterrent for aggression. So I respectfully disagree that your proposition that most people cannot restrain themselves from violence or some kind of, I guess, unwarranted use of a defensive weapon. So, moving forward. Right to natural plants. No person shall be held to have committed a crime by virtue of growing, consuming, holding, selling, buying, or any other activity as it relates to any natural plant, whether alive, dried, or otherwise. Any person who have been incarcerated for plant-related crimes that did not constitute criminal elements at the time of being charged shall be released immediately and restored dignity. Right? And we all know what this is in relation to, right? If someone decides to use a plant for whatever the case may be, it is absolutely absurd to criminalize nature. It doesn't make any sense. Women-specific rights. Women shall have the right to birth control preventative options if single or not in a family home. Women in a family home with the capability of childbearing can also, by agreement of her partner, choose to exercise birth control options. Exactly, ganja. I'll call you Teasy. Teasy, you know, you can hold that point as long as you want, but it has no merit. In countries that have legal firearm ownership, where anyone can go and get a firearm without the hassle that Jamaicans currently have to go through, that has not been the case. Nowhere where you have legal firearm ownership do you have students threatening any kind of authority and not facing consequences. Okay? Read that again, the woman-specific rights. Woman shall have the right to birth control preventative options if single or not in a family home. So they have absolute right to do whatever they want to do with birth control options if they don't have a family, right? Women in a family home with the capability of childbearing can also, by agreement of her partner, choose to exercise birth control options. You know, of course, if someone is in a family home or you're married or cohabitating, as they call it, you cannot make that decision on your own, right? Because, you know, again, the home is not built by a single individual. Yes, it is your body, but at the same time, a family structure has to be by agreement, right? It cannot be one person making a decision. So the birth control options that you would get over the counter, if you live with someone, then you would need that person's agreement as well to get those options. Penalty for rights violations. Now, this is a topic that we currently don't have, and I've spoken about this over the past year. The constitution that we currently use, which is the Order in Council 1962, does not have any teeth. There are no penalties listed for rights violations. So in this constitution, we actively list penalties so that we have teeth. We will have a constitution that has some kind of consequence if people violate our rights. So 19, rights violations are criminal and civil in nature. Where obstruction, interference, harm, or damage occurs, civil monetary penalties shall be enforced to ensure fair restitution and dignity. Where rights are violated without harm or damage, criminal penalties of at least 6 months duration shall be enforced against all involved and all who participate or allow the violation to occur without intervention, except for bystanders and passers-by. Right? So, when we have a violation of our rights, it would no longer be something where it becomes this long drawn out bureaucratic court process, right? It would literally be a test against the Constitution. Was it authorized by law or was it a violation of law? Right? And once it is shown that there was no lawful authority doing something and your rights were violated, then criminal penalties is where you have some kind of harm or damage, criminal penalties ensues, right? And you also have to be monetarily compensated for the shame of your dignity, you know, where someone exercises some kind of state authority against you without lawful cause. Man of God say, it would be hard to culture to facilitate persons buying a pew-pew over the counter. You see, better, how should I put this? The rights listed here are not necessarily the entire regulation regarding the law. The right to own something does not mean that you can just go and just get it just like that. There are, I guess you can say, conditions to exercising the right, right? You have to have some kind of competency. You have to not have, certain type of history. Like if you're a previous criminal, you may be restricted. There are always conditions to something like that. So if you're not mentally stable, that is going to be a condition for disqualification. So again, what you're looking at here is less than 1% of the entire document, right? So this is just listing the right. You have a right to something, but you also have to qualify for the right. It is not automatic, right? Right to dignity. The personal dignity of citizens of Jamaica shall not be violated. It is prohibited to use any means to insult, libel, or falsely accuse citizens. Right to criticize government. Citizens of Jamaica shall have the right to criticize and make suggestions regarding any state organ or state employee, and have the right to file with relevant state organs complaints, charges, or reports against any state organ or state employee for violations of the law or dereliction of duty, but they shall not fabricate or distort facts to make false accusations. The state organ concerned with investigating such complaints must ascertain the facts concerning the complaints, charges, or reports made by citizens and take responsibility for their handling. No one shall suppress such complaints, charges, or reports or take retaliatory action. Persons who have suffered losses resulting from infringement of their civil rights by any state organ or state employee shall have the right to receive compensation comparable to at least 1 full year's salary of the agent violating such right, in accordance with the provisions of law. So this is also a provision aimed at curbing corruption, right? People using the so-called authority for malicious purposes. So if, for example, a public servant targets an individual and start using unlawful means to provoke or to make that person's life a living hell, if that is found out to be true, that individual that is causing you hell, they would have to pay you 1 year's worth of their salary. Plus, they may also face criminal penalties. Right? So that will deter people from doing foolishness. Protection of citizens abroad. Jamaica shall protect the legitimate rights and interests of Jamaican nationals overseas, as well as the lawful rights and interests of Jamaican nationals who have returned from overseas and of the family members in Jamaica of Jamaican nationals overseas. Right? So, just like how you have embassies and advocates that are abroad that try to make peace with other nations, that is pretty much what this is talking about, right? You're protecting the legitimate rights and interests of the Jamaican nationals, right? Respect of the state. When exercising their freedoms and rights, citizens of Jamaica shall not undermine the interest of the state, society, or collectives, or infringe upon the lawful freedoms and rights of other citizens, right? So this is just basically saying, adhere to the law, right? If everybody is benefiting from the law, you are no exception. You have to respect the rights of others, regardless if they are Jamaican or not, right? All right, Brahma Wandan, you're up. Yes, sir. Good evening.
It's a mistake, sir. It's a mistake. I'm just listening.
All right, cool. Big up. All right, 24. Duty to safeguard motherland. Citizens of Jamaica shall have the obligation to safeguard the security, honor, and interest of the motherland. They must not behave in any way that endangers the motherland's security, honor, dignity, or interest. It is the sacred duty of every citizen of Jamaica to defend the motherland and resist aggression. Right? So, this is where a lot of us say we are proud Jamaicans, right? And we love our island, we love our culture, we love everything about where we come from, right? So if there is ever any kind of aggression against Jamaica, we should be ready to defend our motherland and our people by any means against any kind of aggression that comes to our island, right? And as we go through some of these different rights and different provisions within the Constitution, you will see where not only will we have the means to do so, but we would have the courage to properly execute that duty, right? Right to join military. It is an honorable right of citizens of Jamaica to perform military service or join the militia in accordance with law. Again, this is optional, right? If you so choose and you want to be an honorable member of the military service, you have that option, right? Right to labor and work. Citizens of Jamaica shall have the right and the obligation to work and be productive. The state shall, in various ways, create employment opportunities, strengthen worker protections, improve working conditions, and, based on the development of production, increase remuneration for work and work-related benefits. Right? So instead of us depending on corporations to provide work, right, we would implore the government and empower the government to stabilize the economy by providing the majority of employment to everyone, right, so that we all benefit, rather than external forces and people looking to get rich to come in and get some of these things done, right? And there we have it, 26 enumerated rights that we would exercise as a people when we put this constitution in force, right? And each of them have their own explanations of what it is and why it is important and how exactly we would exercise such a right, right? So do we have any questions? Do we have any questions? Is the audio still good? Drop a 1 in the chat if the audio is still good. Okay, we see a couple of ones, 1, 1. Okay, a 2 changed to a 1. All right, good. So, what is the point of listing all of these rights, right? What is the difference between this and the Charter of Rights in the current Constitution? Well, the first, let's see, where we have the penalties. Well, the first big difference is we now have a direct line of penalty for anyone who violates our rights, right? So not only are we guaranteed civil compensation, we also guarantee criminal penalties. That is not a part of the current structure, right? So if you get violated by anyone, any public servant, you are not guaranteed that criminal penalties are going to follow, and you are not guaranteed that you're going to get compensation as restitution for the damages caused to you. You will have to vigorously litigate that in court. So under this system, that would be reversed. Civil and criminal penalties would be the bare minimum. How much would be determined by the severity of the rights violation, right? So this in turn would stop all of these violations that we're currently incurring, right? And when we have these specific enumerated rights, there is no room for interpretation, because one of the other things that we did is that we have removed this room for interpretation when it comes to the court system. All right? So if we're going to put together a structure and a system, like we talked about before, where we don't want a system where we don't know what is happening, we don't know how things are supposed to be going, we don't know how to step forward, we don't know what steps we need to take to do certain things. Like, all of those things are a reality right now. If you don't have some kind of legal training, or if you don't get someone who have some kind of legal knowledge, you are going to get clobbered over the head legally if you think common sense alone is going to help you in court. And court is such an important institution that we cannot leave anything up to chance. It is absolutely detrimental if we leave anything to chance. So, under this new constitution, we would have a government system that removes all decision making when it comes to policy, when it comes to rules, when it comes to anything affecting the public. If it is not something directly related to their duties, then they cannot do it, right? We also remove all lawmaking powers, like we talk about, right? We cannot have the government itself making laws and we the people standing by, watching and waiting to see how it affects us. It's ridiculous. We the people should always be the ones who decide if a law is made or not, right? There must be transparency. That is why I love these platforms. Absolutely. And when we talk about transparency, transparency is the heart of this constitution. Under this constitution, we would have something called the public record system. But before we get into that, I just want to go a little bit into this section so we have an idea what is happening when we talk about a new constitution, right? Article 1, authority and structure of government. Introduction. The people of Jamaica hereby establish and ordain the Constitutional Union of Jamaica through this constitution. The Constitutional Union derives its existence from the sovereign will of the people, and shall exercise no authority except that expressly entrusted by this constitution. So this here now is confining all actions to the constitution, right? The constitutional motto is one island, free people, united by one voice. Again, this is a public document. So if we feel like we want to change this to something else, you can make suggestions, right? One island, free people, united by one voice. Expresses the constitutional identity of Jamaica. One island affirms the unity and indivisibility of the nation. Free people recognizes that sovereignty resides solely in the people, whose rights and liberties are protected by this constitution. United by one voice affirms that the constitutional will of the nation is expressed through the lawful voice of the people in accordance with this constitution. So we have another newcomer, Mr. Ginar or Miss Ginar. The question is, unrelated note, why is it spelled Jamaica with a K, Y-K-A? The reason is because the current name is colonially derived. Apparently, from what we have been told, it was created by Spain, the Spaniards, and then when the British took over, the British maintained that name. Or if we want to put it the other way, the British owns that name. So therefore, we are not going to use any colonial affiliations when it comes to a new constitution. We create our own. So that is why the current spelling is Jamayka. Hope that clears that up. Section 1, source of authority. All authority in Jamaica originates from the people. Remember, people, if you don't vote, there is no government. If everybody stops voting, there is no such thing as a government. So, in every single political system, all authority originates from the people. And this is no different. The only difference here is that this is a conscious decision. This is not entrusting our power into pre-selected individuals. We would actively vote directly for the people who represent us. There would be no middle individuals who would then vote on our behalf. 2, government exists solely to execute the lawful will of the people and to secure peace, order, justice, and public welfare as authorized by this constitution or by majority public vote. No authority shall be exercised unless expressly granted by this constitution or by public majority vote of the people. Now, the reason we have this either or here is because in some cases we might have an emergency. The constitution cannot predict when an emergency might come around, right? There are certain situations where we may just need to have a quick public vote based on the circumstances in our society. So now we have that flexibility as a people, not as bureaucrats. Roy, lawful, greetings, welcome. All public authority shall remain accountable to the people at all times. And as you go through this constitution, you will see what that actually means, right? All public authority shall remain accountable to the people at all times. Structure of government. Government shall operate through 3 distinct and limited structures: the people, the territory command, and the national command. Each structure shall act only within powers expressly defined by this constitution. No structure shall presume powers not granted nor exercise authority not granted. Section 3, the people. The people are the supreme authority of Jamaica. The people shall exercise direct decision-making power over national policy, public expenditure, constitutional amendments, matters affecting sovereignty, and matters affecting institutional policy. No binding national decision shall take effect without public approval by voting where required. And as we can see, everything that affects the people as a public requires voting. Approval of national or territory decisions shall require a majority vote of eligible participating voters. Right? So if we have some decision to make, let's say we want to work on the road. Upsetter, lawful, greetings. Let's say we want to work on the road, right? Man, I got to sometimes we only hear the decisions on the news. That is correct, and that is our problem as well, right? We don't have any kind of say in what is happening. So let's say we want to work on the roads. Literally, all we have to do is make a proposition and vote on it. It becomes that simple. That is now our priority. Let's say, we want to fix all the markets, to modernize them, to get proper drainage, have proper areas for bathrooms and things like that. We can literally just vote on it, and we put the people to work in place to get it done. Right? Let's say we want to work on debushing the road, or start creating barriers for the road so that the water can properly drain and go to certain places, etc., etc. We can literally do that. In our current system of government, we cannot even suggest anything. All we can do is complain and look and see if it is even mentioned in the forum that they discuss these things. But under this new constitution, we would have direct power to determine what our next focus would be. Urigor says, yes, but we still need togetherness for all those things to work. Just go and listen, Papa. Just go and listen. We will get there. Action without education results in chaos at the end. If we don't have awareness of what we have, then it will be taken from us little by little. Even though this constitution here is rather solid, right? However, we still need to know what we have and how it works before we take action. All right, so just go and kick back and relax while we get certain things out of the way. Then, this is not going to be a very long deliberation of what we have here. We're just covering really just the first article. 4. So we go over that already. So approval of national and territory decision shall require a majority vote of eligible participating voters, right? Territorial organization. Jamaica shall be divided into 14 territories. So instead of us having parishes, which are a colonial structure, we would have territories, right? Because again, if we're getting away from our colonial past, we need to put things in place that would establish what exactly we now have. So instead of a colony parish, we would now have territories, which is pretty much the same thing. It's just that it is not under a colonial structure. 2, each territory shall function as a local administrative unit responsible for governance, development, and public welfare within its jurisdiction. All right. Then we have territory commanders. Each territory shall elect one territory commander and also a deputy territory commander. Then he said we will only keep their corrupt language. Well, as we get down to the education section, Patois will become an official language of Jamaica. Right? So, not for long. Not for long. But as it stands right now, we as a people, even though we know the language, we have not written it, and some of us can't even read it. It is only in our consciousness. So, we have to now bring forth a generation that will learn how to read and how to write it before we can call it an official national language. All right? So it is actually in here. It is actually in there. So each territory shall elect a territory commander and also a deputy territory commander. A territory commander shall maintain public order through delegation. Right? So while we would have something like, I guess you can call him like, you can say like a mayor, right? That individual wouldn't really necessarily do the day-to-day duties. He would delegate to his staff what exactly needs to get done to maintain public order. So his duty is public order, right? Second duty is administer territory affairs and resources only as necessary, right? So again, now that we're going to have transparency through documented works and documented evidence, this territory commander would only be able to work on things that are necessary, that are proposed, that are given to him as a duty to complete, right? And C, represent the territory in national coordination, meetings, and emergencies, right? And as we go along, you see how all of this meshes together. A territory commander must reside within the territory he represented, or the territory represented. The territory commander shall act strictly within constitutional limits and shall inform and maintain a good administrative relationship with the deputy territory commander. A territory commander and or deputy may be removed by the people of the territory through complaint of at least 10 people and lawful public majority vote. The deputy territory commander shall take command and become the territory commander in any case where the rightful territory commander is unable to serve or continue duty for any reason, including but not limited to sickness, misconduct, end of term, or termination. Right? So here we have, a similar system again to what we would have in the colonial system, but major difference is that we the people would elect and put in force directly who a territory commander is. This would not be based on no arbitrary decision making. It would be the people who decide who this territory commander and deputy would be. Right? Now, as far as the complaint is concerned, if we have 10 or more people making a complaint, right, then we would have an investigation into that public official to find out if the allegations are true and then what actions would be taken by the relevant authority. Upset us because it would be really nice to hear the country's name and more businesses and establishment. Right? National Council of Territories. The territory commanders shall collectively form the National Council of Territories. The council shall coordinate national matters, review and present issues for public discussion and decision. The council shall not have the power nor authority to enact laws or bind the nation to anything without approval of the people. Right? And this is one of our major issues with our current society. Right? We have people drawing up meetings and doing all of these little things in private pretty much, and then coming out and saying they have new laws or they have new rules or they have this and they have that. And it has nothing to do with the benefit of the people. You start getting taxed, you start getting fees, you start getting all of these things happening where the people did not consent to it. So this provision would eliminate all of that, right? There is no lawmaking power in anybody. No public body or public servant has the ability to enact any kind of law. National command. Man, I gotta say, I'm looking forward to this. Well, stay tuned. Stay tuned. National Command. 3 national commanders shall be elected by public vote from among the territory commanders by the people. So when we have the territory commanders all selected for each area, right? The territory and the deputies, right? From that pool, the nation would then vote on the 3 that would represent the nation of people in certain matters, like international matters, negotiations with other nations, and so forth, right? The national commanders shall represent Jamaica nationally and internationally, coordinate national security, execute decisions approved by the people, and manage lawful emergency response. National commanders shall act jointly in all matters of national authority by tiebreaker agreement, right? And again, the reason why we have 3 is so that at least 2 will create a tie, and the extra one will cause the tiebreaker, right? So we will always have 2 saying yes or 2 saying no. No national commander shall exercise unilateral power. The people may, by public vote in times of emergency, grant the national commanders direct temporary emergency power to make emergency decisions only. So again, anytime we are grant any kind of extraordinary power, we are limited to the circumstances and situations necessary to exercise that power, right? In the best interest of the nation of the people, any emergency act or power exercised as an emergency power and later deemed to conflict with this directive shall be evidence of treason or a direct violation of the Constitution intentionally, right? That is what treason is. You're basically going against a nation. Likewise, if any individual or group is found to have created artificial emergencies or extend emergencies artificially, shall be criminally prosecuted as treasonous crime, right? So again, creating penalties within the law so that there is no arbitrary alleged decision making when it comes to the court process. Belteshazzar says, you think government will accept these proposals? We're not worried about that. If you stick around long enough, you will learn enough to know why we are not concerned with what the current government thinks. Section 8, limitation of authority. No office or structure shall create law outside constitutional procedure or exercise undisclosed or unrecorded authority. All government actions shall be transparent, documented, proposed to the people, and authorized only by public vote. Any act exceeding constitutional authority is void and subject to criminal prosecution. Now, as we go along, right, you will start getting familiar with the different institutions that would handle investigation, prosecution, and all of those different things. Because in our current structure, right, much of the government offices work together, right? In this type of system, all government structures are separate. So you don't have no institution having any kind of control over the other. So where we have, let's say, investigative authority, the investigative body can run in any way. Anyway, they have some kind of reported violation of the law, they can go in and do their investigation without any kind of question, any kind of asking for permission of or any. They don't have to wait to go do their duty. If they need to go in and search computer systems, they can go in and do that, right? They have unlimited investigatory power within the complaint that they get, right? Just like the police. If the police have information, they can go and execute, their warrants or their lawful process, where crime is alleged and they have evidence to prove that crime is happening in a certain area. All government actions shall be transparent, documented, proposed to the people, and authorized by public vote, right? And any action exceeding constitutional authority is void and subject to criminal prosecution. So again, the deterrent is there. If you don't have lawful authority, simply don't do it. If you do it, it is a guaranteed criminal prosecution. It's that simple. 9. Removal of officials. Any territory commander or national commander may be removed by the people at any time. Removal shall be initiated by public petition or complaint of a minimum of 10 people, outlining all violations or grievances suffered or failures attributed to such public servant. Now again, the people are not going to just come out and say, we want to vote him, we want to vote. It has to be based on evidence, right? The law applies to everyone equally. So even if we have a leader of some sort or some kind of person in a public office that has allegations against them, the lawful process would still need to ensue. You need to have investigation, you're going to need to have evidence, and you need to going to have some kind of harm that was as a result of the actions of that individual or individuals. So it is not just necessarily people just don't like an individual. It has to be based on a violation or some grievances suffered or some kind of failure, right? So it has to be fair. Final removal shall require due process and trial by special people's court. What is the special people's court? Now, if we have someone in government who is accused of some kind of wrongdoing, it would not be wise to have public officials judging the accused. So what we would have is something called a special people's court, where the people, random people of the public, would come together and form this special people's court, and those members of the public would hear the evidence and, based on the law, determine whether or not that individual is guilty or not guilty, right? So as long as it is a public official, that public official would not be tried by the normal court. It would be tried by members of the public, all right? Hi, Chief Rich. Lawful, greetings, welcome. Terms of office. Territory commanders shall serve 4-year terms. National commanders shall serve 4-year terms. No person shall serve more than 2 consecutive terms as national commander. No person shall serve more than 4 terms, whether consecutively or non-consecutively. No person shall serve more than 2 consecutive terms as territory commander. Right? So we always have to place limits on those who enter office. We don't want to have any kind of dictator structure. I mean, even though that would be impossible, but still have to place limits. Public decision system. The people shall vote directly on national spending, constitutional amendments, major national projects, international agreements affecting sovereignty. Right? So you notice it says vote directly. Meaning, if the people in vote say, for example, let's say we have a national spending proposal for, say, one hospital drill. Right? We have a spending proposal and it says $15 million for one drill, right? And we vote and the vote says, majority say no. That's it. We move on. That spending will not happen, right? For whatever reason, once the people decide that this is not a national benefit, then that is final. You can't have no kind of sidestepping or redecision that cannot come back up for the next year, right? Hi, Chief Rich says, what are we reading from? All right, for the newcomers who want to figure out what exactly we are reading from and where we're at, you would go to the website voiceofjamaica.com. Right? When you get there, this is what you will see. Once you see this, you know you're on the right place. You scroll down and you click on New Constitution. And here you will have the ability to view or download the constitutional draft that we're going through. And for those wondering, the constitutional draft has nothing to do with Parliament. Just to clear that up. All right? 2, all voting systems shall be secure, transparent, equally accessible, digital, and live. What do we mean by this? Our current voting system, right? We have ballots, we have paper, we have all of these different things. Yeah, hi Chief Rich, send me a message and we can talk. Or if you're on Telegram, you can go to my profile and you can send me a message at the username on Telegram. Our current voting system, I don't have anything to say about it, right? But under this new constitution, we would have live voting. We wouldn't need to go back and go count anything. It's strictly digital. When you vote now, they can tell who you vote for. Well, I don't know how the current voting system works, but from what I can see, I personally, I can only speak for myself, I don't trust it. Absolutely not. If we can't have live voting in this day and age where we have the technology so far advanced, why are we using paper? Why? If we have an ID system and we can match it with what is called another primary key, right? You log in with your ID and you use some other attribute as your password. Let's say you use your birthday as a password, right? Who is going to know your ID and birthday at the same time? It is, anyways, you can come up with some combination where people can access the voting system for a specific period of time. Right? Once the voting is done, you shut down the system. You remove internet access. So you have nothing to worry about as far as alleged security or any compromise. Right? And once you have the voting, you are assigned a ballot paper with a number which can be traced back to you. Yes, but that is not public. None of that is public. You want to tell me you want to tell me that someone with a piece of paper in a ballot, you're sitting down there, what are they going to do? Count to see who and who vote for what? Come on now. That is ridiculous. A matter of fact, if we have a digital voting system, right? If we have a digital voting system where anyone can vote, you would basically have an app created, right? and voting only occur, let's say, within 1 hour or within 2 hours, right? It would be very difficult for such a system to be compromised, right, for such a limited time frame. And on top of that, the system would be binary. So it's either yes or no, left or right. Whatever the case may be, where you have a decision of yes to approve something or no to disapprove of it, right? And if it is live, have it on both live television, have it on live on a website. So as soon as voting is complete, you simply shut off the voting system and you have the results live, remaining live on the website. It's that simple, right? But an app can be manipulated. We're not going to get into that, but there are ways and means where you can secure an app. And even so, if an app is so-called manipulated, there are other security measures in place that one can use to deter any kind of attacks that would typically face an inbound system. But anyways, we're not going to get too much into that, right? The point is, if we have a digital system, right, where one is local, if people are in a location, like you're in all the parishes, you can just go to the town square. You go, you cast your vote, and you're done, right? The vote remains live. It remains offline. And then, for those who are abroad who want to vote, right, they would have to go through the app, or they would go through the website, or whatever means, right? And they would have the chance to also vote, right? As long as you're a Jamaican, you would have the chance to vote, right? That would not only bring forth public confidence, but it would now become productive, where each member of society have a direct say in what happens or doesn't happen in the country. Isn't that the point of a society? If we are not inclusive within the structures of society, and we are just victims, or we are just onlookers of what is happening, then we are not necessarily integral to the society. We're simply being... Anyways, now I get into all of that. But again, voting systems would be live. Voting systems would be publicly accessible, so that there is no manipulation behind the scenes. Everything is in front of us at all times. So when voting done, everybody know what happened. We don't need a secondary body to come and say, well, we had this much and we had that much. No. As the voting is happening, you see everything live. Stability of government. Now, this is another important section, right? This constitution shall not be amended for 1 year following adoption and enactment. Right? So we give the constitution a small rest, so that if we encounter issues, we can table them, we can write them down and create an enumerated list of what needs to be corrected or added, etc. And then after that, after the 1 year, then we can have an amendment. Second, this constitution shall, after 1 year following adoption, remain undisturbed for 2 years if any proposed amendment is available. This constitution shall, after the 2 year following adoption and amendment, remain undisturbed for 5 years if any proposed amendment is available. So here we have various periods to allow the constitution to mature, to allow the systems and the people to get familiar with the governmental structure before it becomes more concrete. This constitution shall, after the combined 8 specified or 8 years specified in the above paragraphs, maintain a continuing undisturbed stability period of 8 years following any enactment. Right? So that means that after this period is complete, right? The 1, the 2, and the 5 years, then any amendment to the Constitution would have to wait 8 years between amendments. So we don't have, happy-go-lucky amending for, transient reasons, right? It has to be a majority or a significant enough reason to be amending a constitution. Exception is permitted only in case of war, national emergency, or widespread crisis. All amendments shall be specific to the emergency or national importance and require approval by the people. Again, any national decision, any important decision affecting any territory or the nation would need to be approved by the people. Right? We are maintaining the power of making decisions instead of giving that power away to some created artificial body. Supremacy and abolition of prior systems. So this is a complete 180 turn from the current constitution, right? The current one kept all of the colonial laws. So what does this constitution do? 1. Upon adoption and enactment of this constitution, all prior systems of governance, laws, and authorities are void. So, once this constitution becomes enacted, all of the colonial laws that we are currently used to become null and void immediately. This constitution shall prevail where any question of law or authority is in conflict. Right? So this is what you'd call the supremacy clause. The constitution is the highest law in the land and the only law in the land. Only laws enacted under this constitution shall have legal effect. Right? Plain and simple. Duty of government. Government in Jamaica shall exist solely by virtue of the will of the people as a temporary institutional body to protect the people, maintain peace and order, preserve liberty, safeguard land and natural resources, advance positive and progressive knowledge, culture, and prosperity as the people deems fit. And that is Article 1, right? And as you go through any other article within this constitutional structure, you will see that it is only where the people is benefiting that is where the law goes. Hi Chief Rich say, question, the current constitution is an order issued by the Queen at the time. How would you overrule that? This question seems to be the heart of skepticism, or I guess the heart of curiosity, when it comes to something like this, where we have created a constitution and the ultimate question is, how would we even implement something like this when we already have a government, right? And all right, I'm gonna bring you up, High Chief.
Yeah, man, greetings. No respect.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man, my question doesn't come from a place of not believing, My question comes from a place of concern. Because, so you may not know, I'm a part of the Maroon government as High Chief, right?
Okay.
And the Maroons have a constitution, yeah? But that constitution is based on the 1738 treaty between the Maroons and Britain. So whether they like it or not, it has to stand. You get me? Now, the current constitution that is governed through the state or through the corporation Jamaica is the order issued from the Queen that gave so-called independence. And me and you already know, say, that independence was a scam because the country is still not independent. So
Right.
I am all for what you're doing, you know. So, but that are the ultimate question.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
the question is enforcement, basically.
Yeah.
Well, question for you. That treaty that you mentioned, is there a signature on there?
It's a blood oath because it was signed in blood by Kojo and
Do,
Nani.
do you have a visual representation of it?
Yes, it can be found, yeah.
Okay. When you get a chance, send me a link to it or something.
Yeah,
Because
man, we can send it to you.
anyways,
And
we can have
that
that
is why it
discussion.
is that's why it's the most powerful treaty on earth because it's the only treaty that was signed in blood.
Yeah,
Because
man, we can.
remember at the time the Maroon them never know if they use language as it stands. And that is why the Maroons hadn't set up their government at the time because they didn't really understand some of the words. And when I send it to you, you'll see what I mean. A lot of the words in the treaty is Old English.
Yeah, man, I'm familiar. I'm pretty familiar.
All right, so there's a lot to it. As I say, me really want to connect with you on not just that, but many other issues,
Okay.
concerns rather.
So to your original question
Yeah.
of how would one um overrule that? You said the constitution is an order issued by the queen at the time. How would you overrule that? We're not overruling it, and we're not even addressing it. It is of no concern. I can't disclose the mechanism by which we are going to use as yet. But when the time comes, that will be very clear on how we move forward with this.
All right, then no problem. So once you have a game plan and it's lawful, because we don't really deal with
Alright.
legally, because legally is not real, as you know.
Right. It's discretionary. Right.
Yeah. So once it's lawful, I'm on board. I'm with it. So, you know, yeah, man.
Yeah, man, no problem.
And so in the case, as I say, I'm gonna connect with you upon the Telegram or me send you a DM. Because a very good friend of mine linked me to your page. He's an American who has fully reclaimed his status. He's a native to the land of America, not the United States, but America itself.
Mhm.
And he taught me a lot of stuff, especially with the Black's Law Dictionary and how to create certain letters and things like that, using the right law words and things like that. Because if you use the wrong words when you address the current hierarchy, them can lock you in. You get what I say? So you
Right.
have to, yeah. So he was the one who linked me to your page.
Okay, okay.
Because you say you have very good content and you're there on the same journey where we there on. You just have to take a different approach to it.
Right.
Yeah, man. So I love the work you do, man. Enough respect.
Yeah, man, big up yourself. Thanks for joining. All right. So, as you have seen, the first article within the Constitution, right? I went over the rights, and in previous lives we went over different sections and so forth, right? Brother, how can I name that? John Crow says, can't we use public referendum to override the Constitution? No, we cannot. The current system, no. So, again, first we need knowledge, right? We cannot take, all right, let me not put it that way. We can take action at any time we want to, right? The problem is, without knowledge and taking action, you get yourself in a jam. It's just like the people who go out there and they march and they picket and they voice their opinions in public. Then there is no contingency plan. What happens if nothing happens, right? Let's say the authorities don't care what you are doing out there. Right? Them just a look and I see what you do. Alright, that was a good show. And then go in yard or them lock off them TV or whatever. What happens then? Or what happens if it work? What happens if they decide to do something other than what they would normally do? Then what? There is no contingency plan with some of these things. And again, I commend the people who come out and raise awareness of some of these issues, but it is not a solution. There is no concrete, definite thing that you can look forward to, and that is the barrier of entry, right? So, if we don't have the knowledge first, just like a courtroom, if you don't have the knowledge first, you just have this one strategy where you say, yeah man, may I go in there and may I go say this, and now the judge says something to you and you don't know how to answer. You just have this one little strategy. You try it and it don't work. Now you're dead in the water. That is not a good way to go. You need to have proper knowledge so it doesn't matter what happens. You always have something that you can use to move forward. Right? So, at the end of the day, while we have a completed constitution now, it is not the time yet to move forward. Like I said, there are several stages that we need to complete, and this stage is the public awareness stage. Okay? On Wednesday, the website is going to have some materials that you can use to share to other individuals, right? Where you will start seeing exactly what the benefits are if we are to join into a movement. Because at this point, people are in support, but people are not seeing the benefits. People are not going to read the 300 and something pages that outline how the system would be structured, what benefits there are, and so forth and so forth. People, I know from experience, people don't have that patience, that attention span to be reading some of these things. So it is going to be in condensed, consumable form, where people can now see, okay, this is how I would benefit, that is how this would benefit me, this is how things would be, this is how, you get what I'm saying? So those things have to come first, and a part of this channel here is to bring awareness to what exactly we have put together so far and how it will benefit us going into the future. It is not necessarily to come here and just read the thing to you. It is to give you more comprehension, more insight on what can be possible when we come together and do something like this, right? Right, there is a plan, but there is not enough public awareness around that. What do you think of the plan the UIC made? All right, I'm going to answer the question because you ask. I have looked over the plan the UIC has, and there are many flaws. The first, foremost flaw is that the UIC would remain a part of the same colonial system. That is problem number one. If we maintain the current system, the Crown has direct control over all resources. Let me give you an example, because people don't believe me when I talk sometimes. Sometimes it takes people months and possibly an entire year to realize that what I was saying has merit, or it is the truth. Currently, has anyone ever seen how much money Jamaica has? Have we ever seen any of the bank accounts? Have we ever seen the actual accounting? Have we ever seen any actual receipts, any actual books, any actual transparency when it comes to anything within the government? So, and also, can we actually demand access to these things? The answer is no. So what that means is we as a people, me, you, your granny for my granny, none of them couldn't ask for no records because it is not our system. We are not entitled to that information. What we may get is we may get a report, we may get a statistics, we may get information that has nothing to do with the actual data, the live raw data. Right? So, again, if we remain in the same system, what do you think would change? You think we would all of a sudden have access to any of this data? Absolutely not. It definitely would not work. So that is the fundamental problem. We would have to remove ourselves from the colonial structure. What at least help of Jamaicans change their status to sovereign and set up constitution, trust law constitution? Listen, again, I get these concepts and I can talk about them and I can divulge some information, but to get into full detail, I can't do it here. And then secondly, it is not going to be ultimately beneficial. Do you think that this kind of knowledge is commonplace, or is something that you can just say, yeah man, I could do X or I could do Y, I could do Z? No. You have tentacles of different avenues of law, right? And you have to be able to navigate each of them to find out what is the best benefit from each of them that you can use for your people or for your group or for your nation. You cannot just look at one nation or one people and say, oh yeah man, them have it good, for them thing I work, so me I go use it too. It not gonna work. It's not going to work. So when it comes down to all of these things that are affecting us, we can't just look at the grievance. We have to look at what the solution would be. What would replace the current thing that is causing us a problem? What would replace the current system or structure? What would replace the safeguards and the security that we may not be enjoying it fully, but we would still want it in a free system, right? So this is why when you're going through the Constitution, we would see all of those details of accountability, because accountability and transparency go hand in hand. If we have those things in place, we don't have much to worry about other than, external threats, which in many cases, when we have certain other safeguards in place, we still won't have to worry about all of that, right? Never seen a receipt about Jamaican money buying or selling for nationhood affairs. Right. And we're never going to see those books. Because like I've said before, we are rich. You see, Jamaica, what we call Jamaica, let me rephrase. You see, the people of Jamaica are rich. Let me say rich. I'm not talk about we as a people. Let me give you an example. Let's say we decide, say, as a people, we want everybody to have housing, not affordable housing. We want everybody to live somewhere without a cost, without it costing us. Do you think that is a difficult thing to do? It is actually so easy. We would start thinking, if we could accomplish this by ourselves, what was happening before we took over? That is, you probably can't fathom it right now because many people can't think about financials on a large scale. But we can literally complete a project like housing in a matter of 1 to 2 years. Everybody have proper housing. No joke. When we talk about road condition, the same way them can fix all of the highway them, they can build and maintain the highway them. You see all of them like something there, you see cone and patrol and them something there. You don't need to see that past one day, you know. You don't. When we look on road mash up, yes so. Me see some place at Jamaica, you see. Them places come like so then road they never fix it. Just patrol year after year after year. There was this one road that I saw. They fixed the road like, call it say, a month ago. By this month, the road returned to the exact same condition. In 1 month. Mind you, yes, there was a lot of rainfall. But imagine a road cannot sustain a few days worth of rainfall and it goes back to the same condition after 1 month. Deplorable. Horrible condition. Horrible work. And when we look at a place like a highway that takes so much beating, you have car, truck, trailer, tractor, everything up on the highway. And no matter how much traffic go on that highway nah mash up so. It nah mash up so. So that means you have actual engineering done to the highways. But the regular road, figure somebody yard. That. And the other problem is, if you start use mortar and concrete throw in the patrol them, now the government is going to tell you that you cannot do that because that is not how road work is supposed to be done. You're messing up the road infrastructure and you have excuse upon excuse upon excuse. And them now fix it. Right? And I've said this many times on the channel. You don't go trying to fix the entire island at one point. You take one parish and you fix that parish. When that parish they're done, you go to a next one. Right? It's just like them say, you don't eat an elephant all at once. You eat it one bite at a time. So, we don't have a national emergency to try to fix everybody. Right? You don't do that. You take on a certain sector, you take on a certain area, you get it done. You get it done properly. You take on another sector, you get it done properly. We don't have that in this current system. This current system, I don't know how they prioritize whatever they are doing, but I don't see any priority as it concerns the regular everyday citizen. Because even if you try to help yourself, where the government is failing, then tell you stop, then tell you don't do it. Right? And if they catch you fixing the road, sometimes you will also get a fine. You use what you have because you don't want to mash up your car. You know, you're tired of dropping a patrol and them something there. You try fix the road. Now if them say you do it, them try fine you. Right? You are modifying the road infrastructure unlawfully. That is most likely what they're going to charge you with, right? Or unlawfully working on the road. So, when we have a constitution that addresses these things and we the people can set our priorities, that is how we can change the entire Jamaica. One parish at a time. Right? Fix and build housing for all natives. When that done, what we do? We deal with solar panels. Right? Solar panels and battery systems for those who want it. We don't need a national grid. For residential, we don't need a national grid. Everybody should have them independent power. Then on top of that, if we do have or we do maintain a national grid, that is for commercial purposes, so it would pay for itself. Imagine if we not have to pay for rent, we not have to pay for electricity, we not have to pay for water. Do you think that's possible? As a native, or standing behind the potholes. As a native, do you think these things are possible? Gregor said no. If we are actually in power, if we actually put our priorities into actually building our nation, you would be so surprised at what we can accomplish. You know, somebody said to me the other day, you know how much it would cost for this, you know how much it would cost for that? You ever hear about wholesale price? You ever hear about bulk pricing? You ever hear about actually providing subsidies so the nation can build? If you buy one solar, let's say you're buying solar panel for one house, right? It is going to cost you more than if you are buying solar panels for 100 houses. Obviously. And when I say more, sometimes it costs you 90% more. Because you're buying retail, you're buying this small amount that it is difficult to transport, it is difficult to make small portions. But when you order, let's say one house, the current panels, you can say one house, maybe 112 panel, right? Let's say 12 panels per house. 12 times 100 is 1200 panels, right? 1200 panels. So we are looking at about, I don't know, maybe 10 container worth of solar panels. Then we are going to want some battery, right? You think so one time we order all of them there one time. We might even get them for half price. We might get them for quarter price. So not only will we be able to afford those things, it would come in like nothing. Now, here comes the work part, right? We're going to need people to install them. We're going to need people to do the work and the wiring and all them something there. If these people are getting a salary, right? We are going to build through the whole of Jamaica, right? You get the work if you live and work in that parish. So everybody eat a food, everybody benefit, everybody get something from these endeavors. That is how we have to look at things. That is how we have to, if we want to benefit as a nation, that is how we get these things done. We don't need to be this crab in a barrel mentality and say, oh, we need this a big company or we need this contracting company and they do this work. And no. In every single parish in Jamaica, we have the talent and we have the manpower to get this done. Without question. JPS hire people in every parish, right? Water Commission hire people in every parish. Don't? We have professionals in every single parish. Even if you don't work in a parish, you get hired for go on different parish go work. The same thing with all corporate jobs, all manual labor type things, all skilled labor type things. We have people in every single parish. We can get all of these works done. We don't need no crab in a barrel mentality. We talk about agriculture the same way. Instead of us having these markets where we're wasting food, right? We can have a system where people order food, just like how you da. It's like how them have food delivery service overseas. We can have grocery delivery straight from the farm. Or the markets would have simply be there for people who are spontaneous. Them just want to come see what they do, right? But you can just come and pick up your groceries and you're gone. That's how if you run things. We don't need to have this crab in a barrel mentality. We don't. And when we have these export deals and these other countries that need the food that we're producing, we need to make the people them directly benefit from these deals and stop having a temporary government structure taxing the people out of their nose. We need to stop that. If we could see the amount of money we generate every single year, I don't think we would even need to pay taxes. I think just the tourism sector alone can cover all of our expenses and keep us running for the next 500 years. When we look at even our travel duties, when we look at customs, you know, all of these fees that are collected, where does it go? We don't know. We can't see it. When we look at all these fees collected by the court, we don't know. Where does it go? Right? So all of these things would change. But either way, like I said, we're going to have some consumables. We're going to have some materials that you can share with others, that you can assist with sharing the word, getting the word out. And we're going to bring up more awareness to the Constitution and get people to understand what benefits they would expect with a change of system before we talk about how we can get this implemented. All right, so that is all the time that we have for tonight, and we will continue again on Wednesday. Lawful, always.